It's slick, modern, and terrifying. But Countdown 2019 is hiding far more than a killer app and a few jump scares. Behind that simple death timer premise lurk shocking secrets, a demon buried in the code, twisted terms and conditions that turn fate into a contract, and hidden story choices that quietly mirror our real-life fears about phones, privacy, and control. These 25 strange, overlooked secrets will change the way you watch Countdown forever and might make 1. The first secret: the app is a mirror, not a monster. Before anything else, Countdown hides a quiet truth. The app that predicts death is less a demonic invention than a mirror held up to its users. On the surface, the premise is simple. Download an application, agree to the terms, receive the exact time of your death. Beneath that hook lies a question older than any smartphone. What would you do if you knew when your life ends? The film, written and directed by Justin Deck and released in 2019, dresses this ancient anxiety in the glow of a touchscreen. Wikipedia. The first secret is that the story is not fundamentally about the demon named in the code, nor even about the cursed software. It is about ordinary people voluntarily placing the weight of prophecy in their pockets, refreshing their fear as easily as they refresh a social feed. Every time a character unlocks the screen, they are not consulting an oracle. They are staring at themselves, at their choices, their regrets, and the lives they are too afraid to live fully, while they still can too. Time becomes a contract, not a river. Once the countdown appears, time stops flowing like a river and hardens into a contract. Hours and minutes no longer feel fluid. They become boxes to be checked, obligations to be met. The app's interface, clinically clean, reduces a human life to numbers and a progress bar, as if mortality were a simple software task. The film's deeper tension is not simply will the clock run out, but what does it mean when time is no longer negotiable? Characters who once drifted through days suddenly measure everything. A coffee break becomes 30 fewer minutes of existence. A car ride is weighed against a risk foreseen. A family visit turns into a bargaining chip against fate. The legalistic terms and conditions buried inside the app expose the second secret. The story equates destiny with a contract that no one reads but everyone accepts. In our world of user agreements and endless I agree buttons, that image feels uncomfortably familiar. 3. The party that feels like a ritual. At the opening, a casual party becomes something older and darker than teenagers drinking from red cups. Phones come out, laughter rises, and someone suggests downloading the mysterious app, a silly dare, a shared joke. Yet the way the group gathers, the way they watch the screen together, resembles a modern ritual. Instead of candles and altars, they have notifications and battery icons. The secret here is that the film treats group curiosity as a kind of summoning. No Latin incantation is needed. Peer pressure and boredom are enough. When one girl discovers she has only a handful of hours to live, the horror is not only that her time is short, but that the ritual the group performed was voluntary and playful. No one forced them. In that sense, Countdown suggests that the scariest pacts are not made in underground crypts, but in well-lit living rooms, with Wi-Fi and music playing, while everyone laughs and taps install. 4. Quinn Harris and the burden of caretakers. When the story shifts to Quinn Harris, the young nurse at the heart of the film, another layer quietly surfaces. The cost of always caring for others before oneself. Quinn moves through corridors of fluorescent light, checking charts, comforting patients, obeying orders. She has built a life around easing other people's suffering, yet she has no control over the most important chart she will ever read, the one on her own phone. The secret of her character is that the countdown preys on her sense of responsibility. It threatens to leave her younger sister alone. to leave unfinished the unspoken grief for their mother. Quinn's dread is not just "I will die," but "I will abandon those who need me." The app exploits the psychology of a caregiver, someone who measures their worth by how well they protect others. Now every second that ticks away becomes evidence of a failure she cannot fix with bandages or medication. 5. The hospital as a liminal gate. Hospitals in horror often feel cold and impersonal, but in Countdown, the hospital is more than a setting. It is a threshold. People enter either suffering or afraid, hoping to leave healed, yet always aware that some do not leave at all. The countdown, glowing from patients' palms, turns the building into a map of incoming and outgoing souls. Behind this imagery is another secret. The hospital dramatizes the thin line between scientific certainty and the unknown. Doctors count heartbeats and oxygen levels, while an app counts invisible hours. Monitors beep in steady rhythms. The phone simply drains toward zero. Quinn stands between these worlds, trained in empirical care, yet increasingly confronted with phenomena she cannot chart in a medical file. The more she walks those sterile floors, the more the hospital becomes a symbolic gateway where rational explanations fade and the app's numbers feel just as authoritative as any test result, perhaps more so. 6. Harassment as a second, quieter horror. Among demons and ghostly apparitions, the film weaves in a different kind of terror. The harassment Quinn endures from her superior, it is not supernatural. It does not require an app. It thrives in the blind spots of workplace culture. The secret here is that Countdown pairs a loud, theatrical horror, an app that screams your death date, with a quiet, all-too-real horror. A man abusing his position, confident that a young nurse will stay silent for fear of losing everything she has worked for. The countdown exposes how little control Quinn has over her time in a professional sense, long before it threatens her life. Her career, reputation, and daily safety are already in someone else's hands. Against that backdrop, the curse feels like an echo of a reality she already knows. Power can write terms and conditions over your existence, and you might not even realize which line you signed. 7. Sibling bonds in the shadow of grief. Quinn's relationship with her younger sister Jordan becomes another quiet nerve the film presses. Their shared history, especially the loss of their mother, hangs in the background, rarely spelled out, but always felt. When the app wraps its digital claws around Jordan as well, the fear shifts from self-preservation to a primal, familial panic. The secret within this thread is that the countdown forces every unresolved wound in the family to surface. Old guilt about who was there at the hospital, who said or did not say goodbye, suddenly mixes with a new terror, losing yet another loved one, this time with a clock that cannot be negotiated. The app does not just threaten individuals, it threatens the fragile web of relationships they inhabit. Every remaining minute becomes an argument, a comforting word, a shared silence that may be the last. In that sense, Countdown transforms from a story about a cursed program into a meditation on how grief doubles when time is quantified. 8. Matt Monroe and the ache of survivor's guilt. When Quinn meets Matt, another victim of the app's prophecy, the narrative gains a second lens on guilt and memory. Matt is not just a scared young man counting down. He carries his own unresolved pain, particularly related to the loss of his younger brother. The demon that haunts him cleverly wears the face of someone he never stopped mourning. Hidden in this character is the secret that Countdown uses the supernatural to dramatize survivor's guilt. The app is not punishing random strangers. It is drawing out what already hurts them most. For Matt, that means being forced to relive the question, why am I still alive when he is not? The countdown does more than threaten his body. It attacks the shaky emotional scaffolding he has built to keep going. The fear of dying collides with the shame of having lived, and the app simply provides the countdown that makes both questions impossible to ignore. 9. Ajin, the demon inside the code. Eventually, the film gives the curse a name. Ajin, a demon embedded in the app's code like a malignant signature. At first glance, this might seem like a typical horror move. Give the evil a name, connect it to ancient lore, let a priest explain the rules. Yet the real secret in this choice lies in the fusion of the archaic and the digital. Ajin is not summoned through blood on a stone altar, but through a tap on a touchscreen and an automatic download. The demon's presence in lines of code suggests that evil in the modern world does not always stride enrobed and roaring. Sometimes it hides behind glossy icons and carefully worded user agreements. The subtitle of this secret could be, "We have translated our myths into software. Instead of haunted books, we now fear haunted apps." The film quietly asks whether the things we put our faith in, our devices, our software, our networks, might carry old terrors in new wrappers. 10. The auto-install nightmare. Inevitability rebranded. One of the most unsettling images in Countdown is not a jump scare, but a simple interface behavior. Characters try to delete the app, even change devices, only to find that Countdown reinstalls itself automatically. The icon returns like a stain that cannot be scrubbed out. The secret here is that this behavior dramatizes a feeling many people already have about technology, that certain systems are inescapable. Think of pre-installed software you never asked for, data collection you cannot fully opt out of, updates that arrive whether you want them or not. The film heightens that unease by tying it directly to mortality. Even when characters take sensible steps, resetting, replacing, refusing, the system calmly reasserts itself. Fate in this story behaves like a persistent background process, always running, invisible until it demands attention, impossible to uninstall. The horror lies not only in dying, but in discovering that you have far less control over the machinery shaping your life than you thought. 11. Hacking destiny. A dangerous illusion. At a certain point, Quinn, Matt, and Jordan attempt to fight back, not with holy water, but with code a quirky tech worker helps them hack the app, rewriting their countdowns to give themselves decades instead of days. For a moment, relief floods the story. Maybe destiny can be edited like a configuration file. The 11th secret is that this hope is deliberately fragile. By treating fate as something that can be reprogrammed, the characters project modern faith onto their predicament. If something is written in software, it can be changed, but the curse is older than the interface carrying it. When the countdowns snap back to their original times, the illusion of control shatters. The film seems to whisper that some realities, grief, mortality, consequence, cannot be patched with a clever script. Our era loves the idea that any problem has a technical fix. Countdown turns that optimism into another source of dread. 12. Father John and the fusion of scripture and source code. The priest, Father John, enters not as a solemn exorcist, but as a somewhat eccentric figure who mixes demonology with a genuine curiosity about the digital. He examines the code as if it were a new kind of scripture, tracing patterns that reveal Ajin's presence, the way scholars once traced ink strokes in ancient manuscripts. The secret buried in his role is that he represents a bridge between spiritual tradition and the data-driven present. Rather than reject the app as mere superstition, he takes seriously the possibility that ancient evil has simply changed its medium. The film toys with the image of a priest scrolling through hex codes and interface text, treating the terms and conditions like a cursed litany. In that fusion, Countdown hints that our technological artifacts may be the newest layer in a very old tower of symbols, and that understanding them fully might require more than technical literacy. It might require grappling with the stories and fears humanity has carried for centuries. 13. Breaking the rules and the price of defiance. A key motif in the film is the idea of breaking the terms. By attempting to avoid the death the app has predicted, characters who change their plans, skip a car ride, avoid a surgery, alter a trip, receive ominous notifications that they have violated the agreement, after which the demon draws closer. The result is a twisted morality. Trying to save yourself becomes a sin against the software. The secret beneath this is that Countdown reimagines fatalism as corporate policy. Fate is not simply a mystical force. It is a set of rules enforced with bureaucratic precision. When someone tries to escape, the system does not roar in rage. It quietly logs a violation and moves to correct it. The horror arises from the collision of human instinct, survival, improvisation, resistance, with a cold logic that punishes any deviation. In that sense, the film is less about predestination and more about the terror of being trapped in an inhuman framework that insists your only freedom is to comply. 14. Public spaces turning uncanny. Many of the film's tense moments take place in bright, public locations. A hospital corridor, a phone shop, a church, a restaurant. The demon does not restrict itself to abandoned buildings or midnight graveyards. Instead, the familiar becomes unpredictable. The safe, shared spaces of modern life turn thin and unreliable. This is another hidden thread. Countdown suggests that horror now travels with us, embedded in the devices we carry everywhere. There is no need to find a forbidden house at the edge of town when the curse can vibrate in your pocket during a work shift or a dinner date. The film's quieter shots, an ordinary hallway that suddenly feels too long, an empty aisle in a store, remind us that dread can bloom under fluorescent lights as easily as by candle. The app erases the boundary between normal life and haunted place, and that collapse is one of the most unsettling aspects of its world. 15. Bodies as archives of pain. While the app deals in numbers, the film repeatedly returns to bodies, scarred, exhausted, trembling, a bandaged leg, a weary face, a hand clutching a phone too tightly. These details reveal lives already marked by suffering before the countdown begins. The demon may strike in dramatic ways, but the camera often lingers on smaller signs of wear and tear, as if to say that horror has been present long before the curse declared itself. The secret embedded here is that Countdown uses physical detail to connect supernatural fear with everyday endurance. Characters do not start as blank slates. They carry injuries, addictions, medical histories, lingering grief. The app, with its clean, minimal interface, pretends to summarize all of that complexity into a single number, yet their bodies insist on a different story. Every bruise and scar argues that life cannot be reduced to digits. In watching these characters move under the weight of both visible and invisible wounds, we are reminded that the real countdown may be the accumulation of unhealed pain over years, not just the final sprint toward zero. 16. Jump scares as weapons of timing. Critics have often noted that Countdown leans heavily on jump scares, using sound and editing to jolt its audience at carefully measured intervals. What looks like a simple toolbox choice hides a thematic link. The film's entire premise revolves around timing, so the structure of its scares becomes a meta-commentary. Every sudden cut, every crash of music is a miniature countdown fulfilled. The audience, like the characters, senses that something is coming, but rarely knows the precise moment. When the scare finally hits, it mimics the app's cruel certainty. Now, the 16th secret is that the movie's rhythm invites viewers to share, in a small and safe way, the anxiety of waiting for something inevitable. Between scares, there is always a few seconds of uneasy calm, like the final numbers detaching from the top of a timer. Even if one might wish for more subtlety, the bluntness of these tactics underlines the central idea. Fear often lies in not knowing when the impact arrives, only that it will. 17. Sound as an invisible countdown. Beyond jump scares, the film uses sound more delicately to mark the passage of doomed time. Beeps from medical equipment, the soft buzz of a phone on a table, footsteps echoing in empty corridors. Each noise becomes part of a hidden metronome. When silence falls, it feels charged, like the moment before a timer hits its final second. The secret here is that, even when nothing supernatural is on screen, the soundscape suggests that something is always counting. Background noises tick away like unseen gears. A ringtone interrupts a conversation, dragging the characters back to the reality of their shrinking hours. The more attuned you become to these details, the more the entire film feels like a single, extended countdown in which everything contributes. Voices, alarms, even the hush that follows a scare. In this way, Countdown teaches us to hear time, not just see it. 18. Technology as rebranded folklore. Strip away the phone screens, and we are left with a structure familiar from old folk tales, an object that tells you your fate, terms you must not break, a demon enforcing the bargain. The 18th secret is that Countdown is less a brand new concept than a retelling of ancient stories in modern clothing. Where once there were cursed mirrors or prophetic scrolls, now there is an app icon glowing against a dark background. This is not a weakness. It is the point. The film places itself in a lineage of techno-horror tales where modern devices become conduits for old fears, much as other works have done with videotapes, websites, or VR technology. Culture Crypt. What changes is not the structure of dread, but its interface. The story quietly acknowledges that human anxiety adapts quickly. We graft our timeless terror of death and punishment onto whichever tools define our era today. That means smartphones. Tomorrow, perhaps something even more intimate. 19. The curse of data and consent. By framing fate as something you agree to with a tap, the film brushes against real-world concerns about data, privacy, and digital consent. How many times a week do people sign away pieces of their autonomy without reading the details? In Countdown, that habit receives a supernatural exaggeration. One moment of casual acceptance yields a binding, deadly pact. The 19th secret is that the story hints at our uneasy relationship with invisible systems. Characters do not understand what they have agreed to, nor do they fully grasp what the app collects or how it operates. That ignorance, combined with trust in the familiar shape of a smartphone interface, becomes lethal. In our world, the consequences may not be demonic, but they can still be profound. Surveillance, manipulation, erosion of privacy. The film amplifies these worries into horror, suggesting that the true fear is not only that something is watching us, but that we invited it in with a careless tap on accept. 20 Sacrifice, Narcan, and bending the rules of fate. As the narrative accelerates toward its climax, Quinn contemplates a radical act, using her own death as a way to break the curse's logic. Without detailing every beat of the sequence, it is enough to say that medicine, specifically a life-saving drug, becomes the hinge between despair and defiance. The plan hinges on dying on time, but returning afterwards, slipping through a loophole in the contract. This 20th secret reveals the film's most hopeful idea, that love and self-sacrifice can find cracks in seemingly perfect systems. The app, so confident in its countdown, does not account for human willingness to risk everything for someone else. When medical knowledge and emotional courage combine, Fate is momentarily outwitted. Even if the curse later shows signs of surviving, this moment matters. It suggests that the cold arithmetic of the countdown can be challenged, not by hacking code, but by someone choosing pain so another might live 21. The false ending and the tyranny of updates. Just when the story seems resolved, a final twist appears. A new version of the app announces itself like an unwelcome sequel. The cursed software has not vanished. It has updated, promising that the cycle will continue. This is more than a setup for potential follow-ups. The secret behind this epilogue is that it mirrors our real relationship with software. Nothing ever truly ends. It just waits for the next version. Problems are not fully fixed. They are patched, reskinned, relaunched. The demon, it seems, has learned one of the rules of modern business. Never stop iterating. For the audience, this is a chilling suggestion that horror, like technology, does not offer closure. There will always be another update, another notification, another feature to lure new users into the same old trap. The promise that this time it's different becomes part of the curse. What do you think about these facts? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.